guys, welcome back to my channel, The Black Accountant. It's your boy Mo, and if you haven't already done so, you know the drill. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments of any kind of content you want to see going forward. But most importantly, don't forget to turn on notification bells so you get notified when I drop new videos. Man, just kind of breeze through this intro now. But yeah, today's topic, I wanted to talk about should you confront your parents? And this is a topic that's kind of always been circulating in my mind. I think a lot of people have this question. And usually whenever I do any kind of videos, whether that's for YouTube or if it's some Instagram thing or if I want to talk about something on a podcast, I always kind of have this thing in the back of my mind of, man, I have friends and family who are watching this, and how deep into this conversation can I really get? Is such and such person going to be offended by this? Do people might feel like I'm talking about them specifically? And then I had a talk with somebody on wisdom where I was telling her these concerns because she had a topic along these lines, and she had told me, it's like, you feel this way because it's a worthwhile topic, and it's something that may or may not be stigmatized, and that's something you might want to actually address. So in talking about it on a platform, especially if you're not giving specific names or anything along those lines, it's still worth talking about, even if somebody might have their feelings hurt by it, because in the grand scheme of things, you may have helped a lot of other people through it. And not that my channel is big enough to really help like a lot of people, but maybe if it helps one or two people, I think it's worthwhile and worth talking about. And really, I think I can give my experience on this because I have done it. And in hindsight, really, I don't think it was worth it. I think it needed to be done, but I don't think it was necessarily worth it, and for various reasons. And I think when we talk about confronting our parents, it's something that you should give a lot of thought to before doing. And when I say give it a lot of thought, I mean the first question that should come to your mind is, what am I confronting them on? Is this something that's actually their responsibility, their fault, or their burden to bear, or is it something that I'm just putting on them? And it's a lot of times it's very easy to blame a lot of our adult problems simply on our parents and not look internally and take accountability for what parts of it are just us, what parts of it are something that we could have fixed, or something that that's based on your personality, not specifically just your parents. Because a lot of times your parents, especially if you have immigrant parents or anything along those lines, they come in it with trying their best. They're doing the most that they can. And that's not every parent. Obviously, I'm saying this in a general scheme of things because the majority of parents who choose to have kids, or maybe even have kids by accident, do want those kids. So they are trying their hardest or trying their best to be good parents, or to do the best they can. Especially if they're very strict. A lot of times people think that this is the way we were raised, therefore we're going to raise you that way. But the point here being that these are human beings. A lot of times they're figuring things out as they go, especially in larger families. When you have multiple kids, you try certain things out on the first one. If they don't work out that well and you see that they didn't have really a positive result, you try something a little bit different with the next one and the next one. And you can never really, especially in large families, fully cater to the emotional needs of everybody. And a lot of times, if you're not 100% wealthy, or you're not somebody that was able to make a lot of money either, you may not be able to meet everybody's financial needs. So a lot of times it ends up with adults who feel like they didn't get the best childhood, or they didn't get the most out of their childhood. And sometimes it leads to resentments. But I think here, coming in as an adult, especially if you're confronting or thinking about confronting your parents as an adult, step back and think about those things. And step back and think about, what am I really angry about? How much of this is forgivable? For me, I had issues with both of my parents, and both of them were a little bit different because I felt like my mother was too involved and my father was not involved. So both of those led to different kinds of anger with both. And as I got older and older, I realized that, hey, when it comes to my father, my biggest gripe was really that you weren't around to teach me how to do certain things. You weren't around to be the kind aspect, the father figure, the male figure in my life. And that was actually, as I got older, I started to forgive so much of that because when I look back at it, he was a contractor. My father was a mechanical engineer. He worked at TWA back in the day, and then American Airlines, Delta, Northrop Grumman, a whole lot of stuff. And he needed to be gone because he was a contractor. It wasn't in his hands. His time wasn't his own. So despite him wanting, or maybe having wanted to be there, I don't know his intentions, he was not available or not accessible to me. So that's not something me as an adult can really hold him to, because it's, at the end of the day, you do need to provide financially and you've got to do what you've got to do. So I would sit with myself and really assess before any conversation, how much of this am I justifiably mad about? And what aspects specifically? And at the same time, when it came to my mother, the same thing is just like, when could I have spoken up? And at the same time, what am I reasonably or justifiably mad at? And I also came to the realization that that it's up to me to control the relationship. And what I mean by that is, when you set boundaries and you set the time, and you have the conversations you need to have, you realize that you are also an adult in this situation. You don't have to tolerate specific things. You can also have those conversations. If the conversation is not working, then create that distance. And a lot of times what's actually difficult in these circumstances isn't the boundary setting or the conversation or anything along those lines, although they are also difficult. What it actually ends up being is the uncomfortability of having to really now adapt to these things. Because in your mind, when you come for a confrontation, you're like, these things are so obvious to me. I grew up in this. I've had these issues, etc., etc., and they build up in your mind. And when you confront them to somebody, to that person, it's probably going to seem like the first time, because they're not the ones living this experience, right? So if I confront my parents like, hey, I felt slighted, or I felt like I was cheated in X, Y, and Z type ways, they're not going to agree with you most times, because all they see are their experiences, their aspects. Like, they know their backgrounds, they know their struggles, they know why they approached the way that they did. And all you know is the experience that you had with them. So it's very easy for them to invalidate your experiences. But given that reasoning, it kind of makes sense. So instead of approaching, or especially if you do have a confrontation, don't take that in anger. Don't get mad when they don't believe you, because that's likely what it is. It doesn't invalidate the experience that you have, but you as the adult now, you have the ability to step outside of that. You have the ability to still be within the capacity of your own personality. You know you can live your own life. You can be your own person. So I think that's a big thing to consider when you're thinking about whether or not you should confront your parents. And also, like I was saying, just keep remembering that these are people as well. And if you yourself have aspirations to have a relationship and build a family, there's no way for you to make sure that your kid doesn't experience any hurt, that your kid doesn't experience any problems, and that your kid may not have any problems with you. And a lot of times when people don't confront their parents, it doesn't mean that they don't have any kind of issue from having grown up. It just means that they figured it wasn't worth confronting or talking about, and you just live with it. So that's all I really wanted to say for this video. I might actually come back and do a part 2 of this as well, because I think it's a very worthwhile topic. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.